The Battle of the Word by Frater Albus Peregrinus 9:2. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Finally, after so many decades of wandering, I have found the Hall of Wisdom, residing not so far and yet an eternity away from the Temple of the Crown. Two lights like bioluminescence were shining here, one calm and peaceful like the sacred turquoise, and another hot and wild like the embers of ruby. Unlike the great serene castle of understanding forever hidden in the dark sacred mists of the deep, this was luminous, a hall with a high ivory tower, all being on top of a majestic mountain, and its splendour was so that it was not hidden like the castle of understanding, but the hall of wisdom was far to behold, and like a symbol of power and royalty. And like before the castle of understanding, before the entrance of the hall of wisdom stood two pillars, one black, one white, the other, with the letters B and Y on each of them, and two ferocious sphinxes, one Greek, the other Egyptian, guarded the door, left and right, day and night. I gripped my living sword, whose unlit hilt was at my hip, as if to gain courage for what was to come, and only determination would guide me here. As I approached the large portal, the sphinxes asked in unison, "What is the name of he who dares to enter?" And their voice was like a thunder echoing through the mountain. "I am Dekertabo. I shall fight for a decision. And not knowing when I was a child, I came to fulfill the task of my name." The Greek sphinx gnarled angrily, "That is no longer befitting to thee, Magister, whose name is fire in the sky, from the land where he came from and whence he soon, as we perceive time, shall return." And the Egyptian sphinx, ever stoic, said, "For you have a name from the past," as she said, "and a name for the future, watching star. You stand between the prophet who was and the prophet who will be, but you are not so chosen. So what name proclaimeth thy destiny? Speak, or we shall devour you." And so I threw off my black veil I inherited, and beneath it my white hair moving in the breeze, and my white skin white as ivory, and the white robe fluttering in the wind, and I replied, "My name is White One, the stranger wandering from afar." As with so much as no movement, the sphinxes again became immovable stone, and like a gust of wind, the heavy portal doors were opened. Now the halls inside are many, but they cannot be described in earthly words. They are of a majesty and modesty at the same time, but I felt his presence. For since the dawn of the new eon he had made his path here, and here he dwelt ever since. And when I finally reached the shrine of the solar godchild, he stepped out of the shadow to block my path to the inner sanctum. Black and short were his hair and beard, black robes with ornaments of red interwoven. With heavy boots he stepped towards me halfway, then he took out his living blade, and it shone, red as ruby and blood, as he held it down. He lowered his head just like a bit, and gazed intensely at me, waiting in silence and blocking my way. And so I drew my sword and ignited my blade, and the turquoise light lit the hallway, and for quite a while we stood and said nothing. "Why are you here, second-born son, in this hall of the Magi, where thou belongest not?" the black man asked finally. Perdurabo, said I, my father, I have come because of your betrayal. For thou, seeing the pathway, repeated the ancient lie. And thus the word of the Aeon became tainted, and the message of light became a message of blood, and the words of clarity became a maze of riddles. And while thou art my father and the chosen prophet of the solar child God, I must clear this path for the second prophet to come. So, make way, or I shall make the way free. I saw Perdurabo grin, a mixture of fatherly kindness and nasty mockery. Perdurabo! That name has no more meaning here, for I have endured to the end, but you, Dekertabo, have come to battle me for a decision, as was foretold when you choose this name, ignorant of the destiny of it. For I am the Therion, and you cannot pass me, for I have the word, and you cannot have a word that surpasses mine. So return, Albus, my second-born, to the dark keep of understanding, and dwell there in peace. For I see thou fearest the stepping out into the light unlike me, and you are not fit to reveal thyself as only I could. So leave. For a moment a fear and a doubt washed over me, for indeed his words were not entirely wrong. I had not longed to step into the hall of wisdom for all to be seen, but necessity, command, and the failure of Perdurabo had forced it upon me. So I raised my sword, pointing straight towards him. It matters not if I fall, for only removing thee from here, so that he who is to come, so that the pathway is freed, that is what must be done. So even if I fell into the utmost abyss, if only undo thy mistake and cast thee out of here, my duty will be complete. Perdurabo moved not, but raised his scarlet blade, casting a red light on his face, and he said, I do not even need to use my sword to banish you, for I have the word and the 72 powers. And then he opened his mouth and summoned the high magic, and holding his sword in his left, and he pointed his right hand towards me and spoke, Shem Hame Forash. And the hall shook to its foundations, and a hot wave of fire blasted towards me like I had never experienced, threatening to burn me entirely. So I held my hand forward with the sign of the three, and I whispered, Hero. Just softly, two lights, golden and blue, mixed in front of me, in the sign of yin and yang, like a shield, and the flame of the fire divine passed me. Again we fixed each other. You are white, Perdurabo said, and so I can see you fell to the black brethren. For if you had absorbed all, you would be black. But you did not face the demon of the abyss, casting off all which thou were. And I am black, for I have absorbed all. How can you call the name of Hero here then, Albus? For a while I looked down while I replied, How long do you wish to continue this lie, father? I am white, for the light shone into me, and I rejected it not, and I became hollow and was filled. For the red rose is indeed a red, and for those who see with the light, the surface is not a blocking, but a parable to what is inside. Why then did you continue the deceit of the children of Sinai? Why did you repeat that lie of the tree of life and the sacred numbers, which they stole from them and cast them into oblivion, the children of Canaan? For there I was, in the ancient land, and there I found the truth about the bridge of knowledge, about the lie of the abyss. For when there is no fall, there is no need for repentance. And when thou wert there, you saw the damaged bridge, but instead of repairing it with thy power, you hopped over the ruins and toyed with the demon below, and you lied to the people about the rainbow keep of Da'at. For see, I stood there and understood, and I set one stone into the broken bridge, so I would cross over the dark Stygian abyss, and that is what you withheld. That there was knowledge that might be a bridge to understanding and wisdom, and not the destruction of the lower self, but the balance of the higher and the lower, and this is what I found, the wisdom of balance. And Perdurabo laughed so falsely and out of time, you were lured by the message of Mart, but Mart can wait. And Perdurabo rammed his sword into the ground before him, and spread his arms, and then making the sign of entry, and yelled, In the name of Babylon, thou who hast not walked through the abyss shall be expelled. Now a great darkness was about to engulf me, like a myriad of tentacles, both thick and subtle, and I raised my sword up high, and I whispered the word, Malak Bel. And a large white orb surrounded me, blocking the dark tentacles, but there was a standstill, so I whispered, Sol Invictus. And the white orb grew, and I whispered, Apollo Soter. And the white orb exploded outwards, and all the blackness Perdurabo had summoned was gone. Perdurabo rose an eyebrow. How can you not have gone through the abyss, and withstand the name of Our Lady citing me these forgotten and lost names? Albus, how can they matter? He stared now in anger like a dark Titan before me. I sighed. For from the children of Malak Bel have the children of Sinai stolen all they knew. And you walked their path, and I walked the path of the children of Malak Bel. And that which was there first always overcometh that which came later. Perdurabo, however, lifted up his crimson blade, so it comes down to this then, and he shouted the word Abra hat Abra, and his entire cloak and robe was filled with red light, and Perdurabo the Therion stood with all his might before me, sword ready to strike, while I still held up my turquoise blade down. By the word of the new Aeon, the key and the revelation given by Aiwass, I banished thee, son. Flee if you have wits. And with that he attacked me, but I held up my blade and deflected it, and so for a long time we fought in the outer sanctum, and strong was Perdurabo my father. But where his strokes were heavy like a hammer, and burning with a sacred fire, mine was swift with cold precision, for I had learned the secret of Da'at, and the wisdom of balance, and had I not, surely every single of his powerful strikes would have smitten me and burned me to ash. And once I hesitated out of mercy, and Perdurabo's sword cut just a bit into my left cheek, and I leaped back, and held my blade pointing towards him. Therion, father, you are the first prophet, and this light shall never dim. But you were deceived by Aiwass, who knew thee and tested the flaws of your character, and you understood it not. And hence the holy book is broken. And there on the side altar where the book of the law laid, The book began to crumble, but Perdurabo summoned all his magic, and it was as if the book was glued together. "It is pointless," I continued, "for I have found what you have not. And while I am no prophet, for we are three, you the first prophet, and the second prophet yet to come, when I freed this hall from him for him to come, and like we two, he and I shall not meet each other in the realm of time of the living. But thy book is undone, for I know the secret and the true name of the solar child, and his eon will be the end of the circle. For the father god and the mother goddess have always struggled, each having an eon, each undoing the work of the other, keeping mankind in the misery of the eternal circle. But the son, the solar child, has united with the daughter, the Lady of Balance, and they shall break the circle of their parents, and no more a new eon shall come to man thereafter. And the third one, the second prophet of the solar child god, he shall solve it long after me, and find words for what cannot be said. And so I cried loud his holy name, Elorian. Heru Elorian Aragami, God who was and will come, solar child, eternal song, surrounded by his sister, the Lady of Balance, of chaos and order. For the abyss is not, and the Sinai is a lie and a theft. And I plunged forward, and my turquoise blade passed the red one swiftly, and went all through Perdurabo's centre, through Tifereth, and the book of the law crumbled, its ashes flying away, and the sacred word Abrahadabra thundered into pieces. So we stood like frozen in time, and Perdurabo fell to the ground. So, Albus, my second-born son, you have found out, and what shall become of me, and of you? And I took out the blade, and put it away, and held my father in my arms. Fear not, father, I am just passing. Hence my name is not only the White One, but also the Stranger Wandering. For I just came, and move on soon. And all starborn prophets shall leave the world of man, and you will return to the home of your soul, like I soon thereafter will too. And no more starborn shall guide humanity. Out of the Om, now one must rise. And though the book is gone from this hall, its words shall remain among me and us and everyone, but only as a beginning, not as an ending. And Perdurabo was overwhelmed with pity, and whispered into my ear, "But if none of them is worthy, what happens to them then?" And I whispered back, "Then they have been tested, found wanting, and shall be no more. They shall find the child god Elorian, and he will sing to them. Or they shall choose the paths of matter and darkness, and no prophet shall save them, for they must soon choose without us, starborn. Many eons have we interfered with them, but they understood not. So, Father, this is their final door. They step through it, or they fall, and it is no longer our way, the heavy way you have carried so long, and which I shall take from your shoulders." And we both smiled. So a round gateway appeared at the end of the hallway of the outer sanctum, and a strange world was seen behind. "I do not know where your starborn soul came from, Perdurabo. Go home. Be at peace." And when he looked at me with an expression of compassion, I added, "I shall endure a bit, but I must just put seeds into the ground, a task not too troublesome, even for me who is, as you saw, so weak. But the bridge will grow. But whether they cross it, that always was for them alone to decide. And with that I helped him to the door, and he kissed me on the forehead and said, "We may not see again, Albus, watching star, a stranger, for your home is not mine." And Perdurabo, relieved of the way, smiled and passed through the portal, and as it closed I stood alone in the hall of wisdom, the door to the inner sanctum in front of me. And now heavy weighed the robe upon my shoulders. "No more holy books," I whispered. "The answer lies within." And like from afar I heard the timeless, unending song of the one who is the one and many, a God and the gods and everything, the first who always was and will come, Elorian. And despite the trials of horrors I knew would expect me behind this door, I gripped my sword and smiled. And also there was a bridge to begin to repair. For know that in the end there is no end, for there is no time, and the ingoing is the outgoing. Albus Peregrine, written in the year 2023, in the dark era, love is the law, love under will.